The cabin lights were dimmed to a twilight blue, the kind meant to trick tired bodies into thinking rest was possible at 35,000 feet. Most passengers had surrendered to the hum of the engines, eyes closed, headphones on, lives temporarily paused between departure and destination. In seat 8A, by the window, a woman slept without stirring, hood pulled low, hands folded calmly, breathing slow and controlled, like someone trained not to waste oxygen or energy. No one noticed her. No one ever did. And that was exactly how she preferred it. The flight had been routine until it wasn't. A sudden jolt rippled through the aircraft, not turbulence, but something sharper, more deliberate. Overhead bins rattled. A baby cried. The engines changed pitch, an uneven whine that made seasoned travelers glance up with unease. In the cockpit, warning lights bloomed like red wounds across the panel. The first officer's hands tightened on the controls. "Captain, we're losing response on the right engine." Before the captain could reply, the radio crackled, static, then a broken transmission. Air traffic control tried again. Silence answered back. And then came the sound no passenger ever forgets, the stall warning. The captain swallowed. Years of training condensed into seconds. He knew the truth even before the instruments confirmed it: the aircraft was drifting off course, and the automated systems were no longer trustworthy. They were flying blind. In the cabin, the seatbelt sign chimed. A flight attendant steadied herself, forcing a calm smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated." The aircraft lurched again, harder this time. In 8A, the woman's eyes opened instantly. Not groggy. Not confused. Alert. Focused. She felt it before she heard it, the imbalance, the wrongness in the airframe's movement. Her body reacted before her mind finished naming the danger. Years of muscle memory whispered the same word they always did. Control. Up front, the captain made a decision no one wants to make. He picked up the intercom. Is there any combat pilot on board this aircraft?" The cabin froze. People looked around, startled, confused. A businessman laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. Someone whispered a prayer. The flight attendants exchanged terrified glances. No one moved. For 3 long seconds, the only sound was the engine's uneven roar. Then, in row 8, a seatbelt clicked open. The woman in 8A stood. She removed her hood, revealing close-cropped hair and eyes that carried the stillness of someone who had faced worse than death and survived by staying calm. She adjusted the sleeves of her jacket, not hurried, not dramatic, and stepped into the aisle. "I'm a retired fighter pilot," she said quietly. "But I can fly." Every head turned. The captain didn't hesitate. "Send her up. Now." As she moved forward, turbulence rocked the plane again. A flight attendant grabbed her arm. "Ma'am, are you sure?" The woman met her gaze, voice steady. "I wouldn't be standing if I wasn't." Inside the cockpit, the captain took one look at her posture, her eyes, the way she assessed the panels in a single sweep, and felt something he hadn't felt since the alarm began. "Hope." "Name?" he asked. "Call sign Raven," she replied. "Former test and combat pilot. Flew dead stick more times than I care to count." The first officer stared. "Dead stick, as in no engines?" Raven nodded. "As in physics still works if you respect it." She took the jump seat, hands hovering, not touching yet, watching, listening, feeling the aircraft's rhythm through vibration alone. "This bird's fighting you," she said. "Stop forcing it. Let me try something." The captain hesitated for half a second. Then he slid back. Outside the cockpit, passengers felt the plane level slightly, not safe yet, but no longer falling. In seat 8A, now empty, a phone buzzed softly where Raven had left it behind. Inside, Raven exhaled slowly, aligning mind and machine. This, she murmured, is just another landing. And the real fight had only just begun. Raven's hands finally touched the controls, not gripping, but resting, as if greeting an old adversary. The aircraft responded instantly, not because the systems were fixed, but because she understood how broken machines think. She spoke calmly, narrating every move so the captain and first officer could follow, learn, and believe. Right engines gone asymmetric. Autopilot's lying to you. Ignore it. Trust the airflow. Below them, clouds parted to reveal mountains far too close for comfort. The radio crackled again, weak, but alive. Unidentified aircraft, say intentions. Raven leaned forward. We're coming home, she said, and adjusted the descent. In the cabin, fear shifted into something else, anticipation, awe, the strange sense that someone extraordinary had stepped forward when it mattered most. Passengers held hands with strangers. Some cried. Some whispered her name without ever having heard it before. The landing wasn't gentle. But it was controlled. Rubber met runway. Sparks flew. The aircraft screamed, then slowed, then finally, stopped. Silence. Then the cabin erupted. Applause. Tears. Shaking laughter. The captain removed his headset and looked at Raven. You just saved 214 lives. She stood, already pulling her hood back up. No, she said softly. I just did my job. Even if I retired from it. As emergency crews swarmed the plane, Raven walked back to seat 8A, picked up her phone, and disappeared into the crowd before anyone could stop her. By morning, the headlines would call her a mystery. A hero. A legend. But for those on that flight, she would always be something more. The woman who woke up when the world needed her most. The applause followed Raven down the aisle like a rolling wave, but she kept her eyes forward, shoulders relaxed, pace measured. She had walked away from burning wreckage before. She had walked away from funerals where no one clapped. Noise meant nothing. Survival did. As she reached row 8, the woman who had been sitting beside her, now gripping the armrest as if it were still falling, looked up with trembling eyes. You saved us, the woman whispered, voice breaking. Raven paused, just long enough to meet her gaze. We saved each other, she replied. You stayed calm. The woman nodded, tears spilling freely now, and Raven slid past her, reclaimed her seat, and sat down as if the flight had merely hit mild turbulence. Only then did she feel it, the delayed tremor in her hands, the ache in her shoulders, the familiar aftershock that always came after the danger was gone. She folded her hands together and breathed through it, slow and controlled, counting in her head like she'd been taught decades ago in a desert base that no longer existed. Outside, emergency lights washed the cabin in red and white. Fire crews circled the aircraft. Medics boarded. The intercom chimed again, this time with a voice that shook openly. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the flight crew, thank you for your cooperation. Please remain seated until directed by emergency personnel. And then, quieter, almost to himself, the captain added, and thank you. Raven. Heads turned again. Phones came out. Someone in the back shouted, Hero. Another voice cried, What's your real name? Raven leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. She had known this moment would come the instant she stood up in the aisle. The world always wanted names. Faces. Stories neatly packaged into headlines. Sleeping woman in 8A saves plane. Retired pilot defies odds. Angel at 35,000 feet. But the truth was heavier than any headline. When the aircraft door finally opened, cold night air rushed in, sharp and grounding. One by one, passengers disembarked, many stopping to hug her, thank her, press shaking hands into hers. A teenage boy saluted awkwardly. An elderly man pressed a folded note into her palm without saying a word. Raven accepted it all with the same quiet nod, the same calm half-smile that never quite reached her eyes. By the time she stepped onto the tarmac, the media had already arrived. Cameras flashed. Microphones thrust forward. "Ma'am. Over here. Are you military? Was that the most dangerous landing of your life?" Raven stopped. For the first time since waking in Seat 8A, she turned fully toward them. The night was loud now, sirens, engines, voices overlapping, but when she spoke, the sound seemed to thin around her. "I didn't save anyone alone," she said. "The crew trusted me. The passengers stayed calm. That's why we're standing here." A reporter pushed closer. "But why were you on that flight?" Raven's eyes flickered, just for a moment, to something far away. "I was going home," she said. And then she walked past them. 3 days later, the story had gone global.